Subject: my ex-wife couldn't let go of her ex-husband and it destroyed our marriage. Hello, true story. My name's Kyle, and I've been watching your channel for a while now. After everything I've been through, I figured maybe my story could help some other men avoid the mistakes I made. This might be long, but I want to give you the full picture of what went down, because my divorce wasn't just about infidelity. It was about my ex-wife never letting go of her past and embarrassing herself every step of the way, trying to get me back. Rewind. I met my ex-wife about 7 years ago. At the time, I was in my early 30s, doing well for myself, working in project management, living in my own place, and just trying to find someone who wanted something real. We met at a friend's birthday party, one of those casual gatherings at a bar where everyone's half talking, half drinking, and half scrolling through their phones. She stood out to me instantly, not just because she was attractive, and she was very attractive, but because she carried herself with this confidence. When I started talking to her, she actually listened. She wasn't giving me short answers or distracted replies. She was genuinely engaged. That caught me off guard. She told me later that she was just so happy to finally meet a man with good sense. Her words, not mine. She said most guys just wanted her for her looks, but with me, she felt like she could be herself. And I'll admit, hearing that stroked my ego a bit. We exchanged numbers that night, started texting, and before long we were seeing each other regularly. At first, it felt great. She seemed sweet, supportive, and she really made it clear that she wanted me to take the lead in the relationship. She'd say things like, "It's so nice to just feel feminine and let you guide us. I don't have to be in control all the time with you." That made me feel like I was doing something right as a man. The red flag. Her ex-husband. But then there was this thing I couldn't ignore. She would constantly bring up her ex-husband. At first it was in passing. Little comments like, "Oh, my ex used to hate when I cooked this meal," or "My ex never liked this show, but I always did." Okay, whatever. People have pasts, I get it, but then it became constant. She would compare me to him without even realizing it. She'd say, "You're so much calmer than him," or "You actually listen. He never did." And while those might sound like compliments, it got to the point where I felt like this guy was sitting at the dinner table with us every night. After about 2 months of dating, I finally told her straight up, "Look, I feel like you still want this guy. You talk about him so much it makes me uncomfortable. If you're not over him, then maybe it's best we go our separate ways." She broke down crying right there. She swore up and down that she didn't want him. She said what she loved about me was that she could just relax, be feminine, and let me lead. She said she wasn't used to that because her ex had been controlling and dismissive. I'll be real with you. Those words made me feel like a king. I felt like I was giving her something no other man had given her, so I took her back at her word. And to her credit, she really did stop talking about him all the time after that. Whenever she was about to, she'd literally stop mid-sentence and shake her head, like she was catching herself. I took that as progress. But here's what I know now. If a woman constantly talks about her ex, or any other man for that matter, you should leave her. That's not something you can just fix by being a better man. She has to heal that on her own, and I learned that the hard way. Marriage and the shift. We dated for about 1.5 years before getting married. At that point, things seemed solid. She wasn't bringing him up anymore. She seemed dedicated, and I thought we had something stable. But man, marriage changes people. After we got married, little cracks started showing. She became moody, distant at times, and I'd catch her staring at her phone a little too long. Nothing blatant, but you know when your gut is telling you something's off? Yeah, my gut was screaming. The first texting incident. The first time I caught her texting him, it was late at night. She had fallen asleep on the couch and her phone was buzzing nonstop. I normally wouldn't snoop, but something in me said, "Check it." I picked up the phone, and sure enough, It was him. The messages weren't sexual, but they were emotional. He was asking her how she was doing. She was venting about little frustrations in our marriage, and he was playing the understanding ear. That crushed me, because here I was thinking she had moved on, and she's running back to the man she swore was toxic. I woke her up and confronted her right then and there. She cried again, begged me not to leave, swore it was just her being confused, and that she didn't even know why she responded. I gave her another chance, but I told her flat out, if it ever happened again, I was done. The second incident and the breaking point. About 6 months later, it did happen again. Only this time, it was worse. She thought she was being slick. She'd keep her phone face down, take it with her everywhere, even to the bathroom. One night, she was in the shower and her phone lit up on the counter. I saw his name. I didn't even hesitate. I opened it. This time, the messages were flirtatious. She was reminiscing about their past, talking about how he was the only one who really understood her. That was it for me. I wasn't going to sit around and be the second option in my own marriage. When she came out of the shower, I handed her phone to her and just said, I'm filing for divorce. No yelling, no scene. Just calm and done. She went ballistic, crying, begging, saying she didn't mean it, that she was just confused. But I'd hit my limit. I'd given her grace once, and she showed me who she really was. The bizarre attempts to win me back. Here's where the story really gets wild. Once the divorce process started, she pulled some of the most bizarre stunts I've ever seen in my life. It was like she was on a mission to embarrass herself at every opportunity. First, she tried the pity angle. She'd send me these long emails about how she couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, how she was wasting away without me. She even had her mother call me at one point saying, she's not herself, Kyle. Please reconsider. When that didn't work, she switched tactics. She literally tried to claim in court that she was insane and that the divorce shouldn't go through because she wasn't in her right mind when she texted him. The judge didn't even entertain it. I remember sitting there thinking, is this woman serious? Another time, she showed up at my job unannounced, crying in the parking lot, saying she wanted to fight for us. My coworkers saw everything. I was humiliated. The divorce process. The divorce itself was straightforward on paper. We didn't have kids, so it was just about dividing property, but emotionally, it was draining because she kept making a scene. In court, she tried to play the victim. She said I was cold and unforgiving, that I didn't give her enough chances. I calmly told the judge, Your Honor, I gave her grace the first time. She chose to do it again. That was her decision, not mine. The judge sided with me on everything. I kept the house, my retirement was untouched, and she got a small settlement. The post-divorce drama. You'd think it would end there, but no. After the divorce, the begging didn't stop. She'd text me constantly, saying she missed me, saying she made a mistake. Then it escalated. She told me her ex was putting his hands on her because she was trying to contact me. She actually texted me one night saying, if you don't come save me, he's going to unalive me. I kid you not. She tried to guilt me into playing hero. My response was short and simple. That's not my problem. Call the police. And that was the last straw for me. I blocked her on everything. What I learned. Looking back, the biggest lesson I learned is this. If a woman constantly talks about her ex, you need to leave her right then and there. Don't convince yourself you're different or that you can love her enough to erase her past. You'll just end up being the rebound or the emotional band-aid. My ex-wife never let go of her ex-husband, and it poisoned our marriage from the start. I should have trusted my gut the first time I noticed it. Now I'm divorced, but honestly, I'm at peace. I'd rather be single than deal with someone who can't fully choose me. Thanks for letting me share my story, true story. If it helps even one guy avoid what I went through, then it's worth it. Kyle, follow up. Her ex-husband tried to confront me. Hello, true story. This is Kyle again. I wrote to you about my ex-wife who couldn't let go of her ex-husband and embarrassed herself over and over trying to get me back. But wouldn't you know it? This time, it wasn't her that came after me. It was her ex-husband. And yeah, things got heated. The confrontation at Applebee's. It started on a Friday night. I had just gotten off work, and one of my buddies invited me to grab dinner with him at Applebee's. Nothing fancy, just wings, beers, and catching up. I wasn't thinking about my ex or her ex-husband. I was just trying to enjoy myself. When I pulled into the Applebee's parking lot, I noticed this guy leaning against a car near the entrance. I didn't think much of it at first until I realized he was staring directly at me. As I got closer, I recognized him. It was him, her ex-husband. My stomach dropped, but I wasn't going to back down. I parked my truck, got out, and sure enough, he started walking toward me. The first words out of his mouth were, "You need to stay the hell away from her, man." I initially thought, wait, was he waiting for me? Did this mother effer follow me? I even started to wonder if my buddy set me up. I almost laughed. I said, "Are you serious right now? She's the one blowing up my phone, not the other way around." He got in my face, chest puffed out like he wanted to fight. He smelled like cigarettes and cheap cologne, and his eyes were bloodshot. I could tell he was half drunk, which made the situation even more unpredictable. I told him flat out, "Look, I don't want her. I divorced her. She's your problem, not mine." But he wasn't hearing it. He started ranting about how I had messed with his family and how she only reached out to me because I kept leading her on. At that point, I couldn't help but raise my voice. I said, "Buddy, the only reason she's contacting me is because she doesn't want to be with you. That's not on me." We went back and forth for a good 5 minutes, right there in the Applebee's parking lot. People were starting to stare from inside the restaurant. My buddy even came outside, ready to jump in if things went sideways. At one point, the guy shoved me in the chest. Instinct kicked in, and I shoved him back, hard enough that he stumbled. That was the moment I realized this could get ugly fast. I clenched my fists, but I told myself not to throw the first punch. Security from the Applebee's came out and broke it up before it escalated. They told us to take it somewhere else or they'd call the cops. I wasn't about to ruin my record over this clown, so I backed off, got in my truck, and drove away. But the whole time, my hands were shaking with adrenaline. Why I filed for a restraining order. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about how unstable the whole situation was. Here I was, divorced, moving on with my life, and I had to deal with her ex-husband coming after me because she couldn't stop contacting me. The next morning, I decided enough was enough. I went down to the courthouse and filed for a restraining order, not just against him, but against her too. I figured if I lumped them both in, I'd finally have some peace. The process itself wasn't complicated, but it was exhausting. I had to provide all the texts she'd sent me, the voicemail where she said if I didn't come save her, her ex would unalive her, and I had to give a written statement about the Applebee's confrontation. The judge looked at everything and agreed there was enough evidence to grant me a temporary restraining order until the hearing. I can't explain the relief I felt walking out of that courthouse. For the first time in months, I felt like I had taken control back. The court hearing. The hearing was about 3 weeks later. I showed up in a suit, calm and collected, with a folder full of evidence. She and her ex showed up together, looking like they'd just rolled out of bed. She tried to cry in front of the judge, saying I was cruel and heartless, but the judge shut that down quick. He looked at the texts, the voicemails, and my statement, then looked at her and said, "Ma'am, you are harassing him. This stops today." As for her ex-husband, the judge told him point blank that showing up to confront me in a parking lot was harassment and intimidation. The judge granted me a 1-year restraining order against both of them. The look on their faces when the gavel came down was priceless. It was like they finally realized I wasn't going to be bullied or guilted into playing their games anymore. Other things going on in my life. Now, I know this whole story sounds dramatic, and it was, but I don't want you to think my entire life revolves around this mess. I've actually had a lot of positive things going on too. And I think it's important to share that because too many men going through divorce only hear the negative side. First, I got promoted at work. I'm now leading a bigger team, handling larger projects, and honestly, I feel like I've hit my stride professionally. It's funny. My ex used to say I wasn't ambitious enough, but now that she's out of the picture, I've been able to focus completely and I'm thriving. Second, I started getting back into fitness. During the marriage, I let myself go a little, stress eating and skipping workouts. After the divorce, I joined a gym near my house, and I've been consistent for almost a year now. I've lost 25 pounds, built muscle, and I feel better than I did in my 20s. I also picked up a couple of hobbies I'd put on hold. I used to love playing guitar, but during the marriage, she always complained it was too loud or a waste of time. Now I play almost every night. I even started writing some of my own music again. And here's a big one. I started traveling. Nothing crazy, just short trips. A buddy of mine and I drove down to Nashville for a long weekend. Caught some live music and had a blast. Next month, I'm planning to go hiking in Colorado. It feels good to live for myself again. Reflections on relationships. I'll be honest, this whole experience has changed how I look at relationships. I used to think if you just loved hard enough and gave someone enough grace, they'd change. But now I know better. If someone shows you they're stuck in the past, believe them. If someone disrespects you once, don't wait around for it to happen again. And most importantly, don't let anyone guilt you into staying in a toxic situation. I've had women show interest in me since the divorce, but I've been careful. I'm not jumping into anything serious yet. I want to make sure the next time I give my heart to someone, it's to a woman who's actually present, not living in the shadow of her ex. The biggest takeaway. The restraining order gave me peace of mind, but the real victory was realizing I don't owe my ex-wife or her ex-husband anything. Not my time, not my energy, not my sympathy. They tried to drag me into their drama, but I refused. And that's something I hope other men take from my story. You don't have to be the savior. You don't have to fix anyone. Sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away, close the door, and never look back. Anyway, true story. I know this was another long one, but I wanted to share the follow-up because I know a lot of men think the drama ends with the divorce. Some, Tim. It doesn't. Sometimes you have to take extra steps to protect your peace. Thanks for giving men like me a platform to share.